So you're thinking about buying a new home, but the question becomes, should you sell your current one first before you buy your next one? Well, this is one of the biggest challenges that homeowners face in this market and overall. And if you get this decision and this part of the real estate transaction wrong, it's going to cost you time, money, and a whole lot of stress. So that's why in this video, friends, I'm going to break down the pros and cons and exactly what happens when you sell before you buy your next home, or even just maybe list or at least get it under contract before you move on to your next property. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons, and some of the most common mistakes people make in this process. And towards the end, I'm also going to reveal 3 companies that help a lot, and they actually buy your home that you want to buy before you sell. And these programs aren't for everyone, but they let you have flexibility in the buying process and actually lease the home you buy back to you for a bit while you sell your current one, which is super cool. Now, I'm James Lanius, and I help folks like you every single day buy, sell, and invest in the Carolinas here. And if that's you, or if you have any real estate questions, go ahead and reach out via the phone number on the screen or any forms of contact in the description below. I'd love to help you on your real estate journey. And I love getting calls from people off of my YouTube channel. I think it's a super great way to connect and a cool way to help people and add value. Now, let's go and dive into some pros and cons of going ahead and selling your home before you buy your next one. First one I want to talk about as a pro, and that is that you have stronger financial position and a much clearer budget when you sell your first home or the one you're living in before you buy your next one, because you know your net proceeds up front, friends. I mean, when you don't sell your home, you don't know how much you can get for a down payment. You don't know often how much you can afford. And when you do, you know exactly how much equity you have to work with, which is super valuable when you're looking and shopping for a home. You're not going to be guessing at what your home might sell for. You're going to have actual numbers to work with, in terms of closing costs, agent fees, and any prep work. You're going to know all those numbers, so you don't have to worry about trying to guess about any of that. Now, that's going to give you a lot more confidence going in and making an offer, especially when you have a budget, and it's going to help you avoid a lot of surprises during the escrow process. Now, along with this, you're going to have a lot stronger down payment and much lower risk, because with your sale funds in hand, you can make a larger down payment, reducing your monthly mortgage costs and possibly eliminating that PMI, the pesky PMI, the private mortgage insurance, which I would advise avoiding at all costs if you can, because this is essentially insurance you pay just because you put down less than 20% in your home when you bought it. And if you put down 20%, you can avoid that. So if you sell before you buy, you know exactly if you can not have to pay that if you're able to put down, over 20%. But if it's 15%, you have to pay that. So it's just an extra expense, an extra $100, $200 a month that goes to nothing, basically. So that's super helpful. Now, selling before you buy is also going to help you avoid a lot of financial stress from overlapping mortgages. I mean, if you aren't in a position to be able to, own several houses at once and carry mortgages on each, probably not a good idea to try to do that, because carrying 2 loans, it can be stressful and risky, especially if your old home doesn't sell quickly, but sits on the market longer, or maybe gets stuck in the winter season where there's not as many buyers and you're trying to pay 2 mortgages and do all this stuff. It's just insane. So selling first means no double payments. You're not going to be juggling timelines, and there's a lot less financial strain during the transition. All right, so we talked about one pro of selling before you buy. Let's go ahead and talk about the second pro of selling before you buy, and that is that it makes your offer much stronger on your next home, because less contingencies when you're making an offer means a more competitive offer. So sellers are usually much more likely to accept an offer that is not contingent on another home selling. You're going to appear more ready, serious, and more prepared, giving your offer a competitive edge. Relevant story, I just had a buyer close, or they just went under contract on a home, and because their offer was not contingent upon selling their current home, they got accepted over another offer that was contingent on them selling their home. And the other offer that was contingent upon them selling their home first, the sellers did not want to accept it, and they held on to it for a week or so until we made our offer, which wasn't contingent on that, and we were accepted in a couple days. So it's super important and super valuable to be able to make an offer that's not contingent. You're also going to be a lot more flexible in negotiations where you're not trying to line up closings perfectly. And you can do it, can be done to line up those timelines just as you need them. But if you can avoid it, it's definitely the way to go, because you're going to be able to focus on negotiating the best price, the best closing timeline, and repair items. You're not going to be worrying about, trying to move it at the right time. And you might have to sacrifice some of those if you do have to, basically buy your next home before you sell your current one, right? So yeah, you're going to feel a lot less pressure to accept unfavorable terms if you're able to just sell your home first, or at least get it under contract. This is going to make both transactions work better and help you get a better deal on your home. You're also going to have a lot better chance on multiple offer situations. If there's, a crazy market and a lot of offers are going in and out, similar to like 2020, 2021, having less contingencies and a clean offer is going to make or break your offer being accepted a lot of the times, even if it's not the highest price. And you're going to gain a lot of leverage just by removing uncertainty for the seller about having to close and sell a home before you can actually buy their home, right? Okay, now that being said, what if you do not want to sell your home first? What if you're worried about being stuck without a place to go, which is very common. We're going to talk about that next. Well, there are companies, actually 3 I'm going to mention at the end of this video, so stick around, that do offer solutions where they actually buy your next home with cash, lease it back to you, and give you time to sell your current home after the fact, which is a super amazing deal and option if you can do it. Now, these companies and the services they offer do charge something, and they're not right for everyone, I will admit, but if flexibility is what you need, I'm going to explain at the end how these programs work, so stick around. Now, let's go ahead and talk about a con of selling your home before you buy. And this is probably the one you've been thinking about this whole video so far. And that is that you're going to potentially and probably need temporary housing and moving flexibility because there's risk of a timing gap, right? Your current home might sell really quickly, and finding that next house could take weeks or months, or maybe once you get stuck during the winter season and you don't have a home to move to, you're going to be stuck maybe with a family member or a friend or in an Airbnb, and it's just tough to close both those deals on the same day. And I've done it, we can do it, and it can be done, but it's not ideal, I would say, if you can avoid it. So it's something that might be a con. And the other thing is storage, because you're probably going to have to put all your stuff with your people you're living in, or hopefully the Airbnb has an extra storage space you'll be able to put all of your extra stuff in the meantime. Maybe you'll have to rent a storage unit for a bit. You're gonna have to pay movers twice, right? So that's one of the biggest cons of having to do this, but there are ways to work around it and make it work for everyone, right? Now let's go ahead and dive into the third pro, and the last pro I want to talk about selling your home first before you buy your next one. And that is that there is a lot less pressure on you and on the seller usually, and everyone involved during the purchase process, because you're not house hunting in a panic. Your house is already sold, right? Or it's at least under contracts and past the due diligence period. And you're gonna have the freedom to shop patiently and stress-free. You're not gonna worry about stress buying right on the timeline you need, because you're in the process of already selling that one. You're gonna get the cash, and you might just need to stay there for a bit. And you're a lot less likely to settle on what you want in the home, maybe less than what you want in a dream home, just because you're running out of time, So you're gonna be able to be a lot more strategic with your search too. You're gonna be able to explore neighborhoods, compare listings, wait for the right one to pop on the market instead of jumping on one that fits maybe 60, 70% of your boxes. You're going to be able to write offers without the clock ticking, no frantic deadlines, no we have to buy now or be homeless. You're going to be able to buy your next home based on if it's the right home, not just because you need to move into any home because you don't want to, do something really quick. Of course, all this is contingent on if you have a place to stay for a while and if you can afford to, stay at a place for a while. But a lot of times you can, schedule the timelines just right, and, it's super clean. Now I want to go ahead and talk about the last con, and that is that you're going to probably feel a lot more rushed to sell if you've already found a home. Now let's talk about this, because in this reverse scenario, if you find your dream home before your current one is even listed, the pressure is going to flip, and you're going to feel forced to price low. You're going to feel forced to skip staging and rush your listing just to keep up. You're probably not going to want to do a lot of repairs, updates, upgrades, or get it ready or clean it or do landscaping, because you're just trying to get it sold quick, and it's harder to time the market perfectly, because trying to sell at the same time that you're buying means navigating 2 markets, and they don't always move in sync. When I say 2 markets, I mean, the buying market and the selling market. And even a small misalignment in timing can complicate negotiations, closing timelines, everything involved. And not only that, but the buyer pool might shift significantly, and a spike in interest rates or maybe a drop in demand could slow down your home sale a lot. And if your home lingers on the market or sits through the winter, it might jeopardize or reduce your expected proceeds, which makes it tough to get the home you want at the right time time you want and at the right price. All this being said, the question, once again, I'm going to ask is, should you sell your home before you buy, or should you at least be under contract on the home you live in before you go ahead and make an offer or close on your next one? And for a lot of homeowners, it's a safer and more strategic option to go ahead and sell before you buy, because you know your budget, you reduce your risk, and you write stronger offers, but it's not one size fits all. If you're nervous about temporary housing, an Airbnb, or staying with family or friends, or moving twice, or juggling timelines, there's some creative workarounds out there, and I'm happy to help guide, doing that if you'd like me to. I'd like to go ahead and mention those 3 companies that I talked about at the beginning, who actually, help you buy your first home with a cash-backed offer, lease the home back from them, and then sell your current home afterward. These 3 companies are Homeward, Knock, and Orchard. There's also a lot more that do that than just these 3, but these are 3 that are pretty good in the area. And these could be a great option if you need more flexibility on, timeline. You don't want to feel rushed. You don't want to move twice. You don't want to live with people. And they do charge often, a decent percentage of money to do this. Obviously, it's a service. They're not in it for charity. So be aware of that, but it can be a super good option for some folks. But if you do want to talk about strategy and what the best move is for you, your specific situation and moving timeline, go ahead and reach out, because I help buyers and sellers just like you every single day navigate this market, navigate these contracts, timelines, and contingencies, and everything in between. So reach out. My phone number is on the screen, and just shoot me a text. No obligation. I love connecting with people from my YouTube channel. People call and text me all the time from it. I'm helping several buyers and sellers now that reach out via YouTube, so I'd love it if you were the next one. Go ahead and like that anyway, and subscribe on my wife and I's channel for a lot of Carolina living content. My wife hasn't been in several of the last videos because she's pregnant and hasn't been feeling well, but we're hoping to get her in some more here soon. But that being said, subscribing would help us out on our journey, and we would appreciate it a ton, so go ahead and do that. And now I want to ask the question, and I want you to answer this in the comments. So the question is, would you rather sell first and shop with confidence, or you buy first and deal with the sale later? Go ahead and let me know in the comments. And otherwise, I hope you have a blessed day, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.